to do, and I think he's nailed that on.
Do you, before we come at you, Scotty, do you, Matthew, kind of two questions in one. A, have you been surprised at how well, he's done there with it being so early in his career? And B, do you see it being like a one-off? I don't mean in terms of how they perform this season, and we'll get to that because I think that, it's very, very difficult to keep doing what they're doing this season. But do you think it's a one-off, and have you been surprised?
Nah, I don't think it's a one-off. I think it's really difficult because when you're Gerrard and Rangers, all you have to do is beat Celtic and that's it. And then when Celtic are in complete downfall right now, it 100% helps. But I think if you look at the progression that they've made over the years, I think that's really, really, really beneficial. And it's I don't know, it's a difficult question, but I think next season will be really interesting. God knows what's going to happen at Celtic.
Yeah.
Can Rangers, because to then go and do it again with a title, you know how difficult that is. Not a lot of teams can do that. But it'll be really interesting to see.
Right, Scotty, let's go from an overall point of view, right? From thinking back to when the whole time you've supported them, right? If you can think back to all those times.
2015.
Whenever it was, 2019.
2020. The club only formed in 2012, eh?
Yeah, apparently so. But if you could, can you explain from a fan point of view what you think Gerrard's brought? Because, obviously, the way I see it, the way Matthew sees it, certainly with Gerrard with the Liverpool connection, I hope he's going to do well anyway, right? So, and more than likely, he's probably going to take over Liverpool at some point, which we'll get into. But yeah, well, what have you seen? What's he brought, do you think?
So I was thinking about this in the shower before I came on tonight.
I like the fact that you showered.
A lot of ways you can go from here, but the biggest, I think, what Gerrard's brought back to Rangers is he's brought the pride and passion back into what it means to play for a Rangers team, to be a Rangers player and to wear a Rangers strip. Like, he's got 22 odd boys in the change room that genuinely know what it takes to play for Rangers. And he's brought that mentality from Liverpool, playing for a massive club himself, playing in massive games. Probably a work ethic as well. He's brought into the whole club. And it just seems like there's so much more pride to play for a Rangers team. I remember the one game that sticks out in my mind is when Kikshina was manager. I went through on my own. I actually got to train with Keith Lamb. What a day out that was.
What a day out.
We went to St Johnstone, beat us 3-1 at home. And there's players just walk out. As soon as the first goal went in, players were just like hands up in the air, looking at each other. Nobody really cared. It wasn't like, it was acceptable to get beat. But whereas you see Gerrard last night, 0-0, season's pretty much done. All we need is a few points, and he's going absolutely mental at half time because it's only 0-0. There's just little behaviours like that. But then at the same time, Matthew touched on it, the style of football as well. Like, every Rangers fan in the world would have taken 1-0 ugly football, 1-0 every game this season if it meant we're stopping 10 in a row and winning that title. But he's done it with such a style of football that every game you watch, I've spoken to so many people, they're like, oh, I'm going to watch Rangers tonight just because of the style they play. They know it's going to be a fast-flowing game. There'll be lots of good goals probably, especially in Europe. And then that excitement as a fan, you wake up in the morning on match day, you're like, I generally can't wait to watch football tonight. Whereas this season, you watch a Premier League game, as the season's gone on, I've watched less and less games. You're just like, do I want to watch some terrible games of football? But generally, the style of play he's playing generally makes it exciting to watch again. Do
you feel like, from the outside looking in, I think he's created something that hasn't been there at Rangers in a long time for a lot of reasons, but it feels like he's really got the fans back, connected with the team and the club, and you all seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak, whatever that saying is. If I got that right, I don't know, but it just feels like he's really brought everyone back together again.
Yeah,
I think that's huge.
100%. I think that, I don't know. Obviously, the results on the pitch show that's why people believe in him. But he comes with a big name. Whereas look at the managers before and Kikshina, and they just weren't Rangers managers. They didn't know what it means to play for a big club. They didn't know what it means to live your life as a Rangers manager every single day of your life. Whereas you look at Gerrard, it seems like he never takes a second off. He just seems like the guy, all he thinks about is being a football manager, being a football player, and lives and breathes it, and he knows what it means to play for such a big club.
He's definitely obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Do you think if Rodgers was still, let's say, like at Celtic and that, do you reckon?
I mean, that Celtic team on the Rodgers was unbelievable. Like,
good, it was really good.
Like playing proper. I just the same as Rangers now. They're playing proper attacking, free flowing football. I mean, there is some unbelievable firm games, I would think.
It'll be interesting.
So hard to say. Yeah.
Next season, do you reckon Celtic get their shit together and it comes a proper battle?
Yeah, they've already started to get their shit together a little bit.
They're slowly on the way back, but here comes the biased Rangers fan. I think what Gerrard's set in place since the day he walked in there, he's been building for 2, 3, 4 years down the line. He's not been thinking, right, let's win the season, get over and done with. He's been preparing for the future. You see, he's introduced a style of play. He's bringing in players that know that system, and then he's bringing in even more players. He's already signing players for the future, thinking, right, he knows Stephen Davis isn't going to be there forever. He knows Al McGregor's not going to be there forever. But he's bringing in players that know the style, and he's thinking 2, 3, 4 years ahead, which is also, I think, what makes him such a good manager as well.
Strengthen when you're strong, right?
Yeah.
That was saying. I think that, I didn't expect it to go to be how it's been this season for him at all. We were talking about, like, the drive and stuff he has, and we've talked about a lot about Lampard on, and we had Liam on, and we talked about it. And it's interesting, because two very similar players in terms of playing career. Lampard probably with a lot more honours to his name than Steven Gerrard does as a player. But I don't know, maybe if this is just a Gerrard bias, and I'm happy for someone to comment or send me a message to say it definitely is. But Gerrard always had something a little bit different to Lampard. I don't know what it was. I don't know how to explain it. It may just be his personality, but he just, I don't know, he looks like he loves it. Like, you saw it last night at halftime. Like, he's so invested in it. He loves it. I'm not saying Lampard wasn't. I'm just trying to get my point across. He's so emotionally invested in it. He lives and breathes it. You can't ever see him doing anything else with his life. And what you said, Matthew, is set up in the away game against Antwerp in the first leg. I texted you boys immediately and was like, it reminds me of Liverpool under Benitez in Europe. Instantly, it was like that. I went straight back to that time of like, oh, we're set up quite tactically really well here. And actually, this might not be exciting. It ended up being very exciting, right? Yeah. But it might not be an exciting game, but it's an away European game. You set up, to maybe go 0-0, nick a goal. 1-0 is not a terrible result away. Like, you could see he's learned a lot. He's taken a lot from the managers he played for, and he's added to that, which is really interesting.
You see that bit on the Lampard, I think the difference between it seems like Gerrard's got that massive chip on his shoulder. He's always people always put him down and say he's never won the league. He's never done this. He's a serial underachiever. But sure, he's one of the best players who's ever played world football. But he seems like he just seems like he carries that chip where he's like, I will not stop till I'm dead to prove how good I am. And
the way I see it, Gerrard was in the trenches a lot with Liverpool, right? Like, in bang average teams, trying to fight for whatever it was, having to having to pull them out in that. And I think Rangers were in a similar situation as a club. It was basically like, we're in the trenches here, but there's Celtic, that are doing this and that. And I just think I think that's why it fits so well.
So, John, as a pure Rangers fan point of view, the most satisfying thing is, we talked about in one of the pods, remember that League Cup final? Yeah. Whereas that was when we ended up getting beat 1-0, but we absolutely battered Celtic. That's not even a biased opinion for 90 minutes. And they had Foster in goals, which had the game of his life. But that was the turning point where I was like, wow, that is a totally different. That is Rangers on that pitch. That is a Rangers club, and I've got that photo. It's on my phone. Where is it?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I remember you saying that, like, even though you lost the game, you felt like it was the start of something rather than like, shit, we've lost. Yeah, and
to see how they've trusted Gerrard, they kept the faith in him, and to see it's the exact same style of football. He's just stuck with it, trusted his process, got some players, as Matthew said, he's turned some players into a lot better players, management. And you look at the midfield, that's Gerrard's doing. Yeah, 100%. And you made Ryan Jack, Glenn Kamara's.
Yeah, he's definitely, I agree with you guys. He looks like a man that's got always has done, even as players, this like crazy drive to him that you're like, everyone kind of looks at and wishes they had it in whatever they're doing, right?
It's never satisfied.
Never satisfied, like pure passion for it. all that stuff. And again, I'm not saying that, you know, other guys
Yeah.
at Lampard and that don't have that. Of course they do. But
And what's so cool about this, you've seen Gerrard grow as a manager as well on that journey.
Yeah.
From the remember he celebrated the Old Firm game when we beat them, went absolutely mental.
Yeah.
And it all went horribly wrong from there. It's not as if he's been this unbelievable successful manager. It's been like there's been so many lows under Gerrard as well.
Do you know
that's what makes it so much more enjoyable when you do win it.
Do you know what else is really interesting? You'll maybe be able to give a little bit more on the backstory of it, because, you know, me and Matthew have only been back here this year, but, you know, his patience with Morelos and dealing with him and kind of showing the faith in him.
Yeah.
I think you can see in Morelos the gratefulness for that in a way.
Oh.
And I think, you know, last night when everything's going for you, Gerrard obviously gets sent off for Morelos, definitely not diving. I mean, he clearly got touched. Yeah. Whether it's a penalty or not, you can debate about it if you got touched slightly, but it's definitely not a dive. But then Morelos goes and scores the goal to win the game. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, that just pays even more dividends. And then Morelos,
different manager, that Morelos isn't scoring that. And under a different manager, I think Morelos is getting sent off second half.
Yeah. I think Gerrard knows that he's you need someone like him in your team. I think 100%. Gerrard's played with plenty of people like that, and Gerrard's like, I just have to learn to put up with it. I'm not going to try and change it. Like, but I need people like him on my team right now for what I'm going to
He's dealt with Morelos.
He's a winner.
Like, he's known when to discipline him. He's known when to drop him. At one point when Morelos was worth 20 million, then he had that spell where he was absolutely terrible. But Gerrard disciplined him, kept him on the bench for a few games, brought him in. It just managed him so well, and it's worked out perfect. Now Morelos is having the run of his life. Singing
Sweet Caroline
with
his top off.
He's in the change room with his top off and the Tony Macaroni. How many boys can say they've done that?
Okay, that's one of the best after game manager interviews I've seen in a long time, potentially ever. It was fucking brilliant last night.
Two of the best interviews as well. David Martindale's interview was class.
Yeah, I like him, man.
Great, honest guy. Just says how it is, and seems like a man of the people, which you don't seem to get in football these days. They're so dry and they say that what's politically correct. But yeah, two passionate managers last night. And